If you're a fan of classic games and were around to play the Nintendo 64, there's a chance that you may have played or at the very least known about Banjo-Kazooie. It's crazy to think that this critically acclaimed game series has not seen an official release since 2008. Today we dive into the reason why.
You don't understand, it's after us. It's big! It's got huge teeth, a big beak, bulgy eyes, feathers, fur everywhere.
Yeah, and pigs can fly.
No, bears can fly! Bad guys beware! Here comes Banjo-Kazooie, where you're both bird and bear with amazing powers. There's never been anything like this head-banging, sky-flying, rock-hopping, egg-shooting, tag-teaming duo. Banjo-Kazooie, only for Nintendo.
Banjo-Kazooie is a third-person single-player platform video game developed by Rare, released for the Nintendo 64 in 1998. Here at Game Circle, we love Rare because of games like these and of course for bringing us Donkey Kong and Conker's Bad Fur Day among others. But we've already mentioned that before. The story follows a brown honey bear named Banjo and a red-crested Breegull bird named Kazooie. Brown honey bears do exist, but the crested Breegull is a fictional bird made just for the game. These two main characters work together to stop a witch named Gruntilda who wants to steal the beauty of Banjo's younger sister, Tootie. Banjo and Kazooie have a wide range of abilities that they use to go through 9 levels or worlds, gathering items, solving puzzles, defeating opponents, and jumping over obstacles. Banjo-Kazooie was created by brothers Greg and Steve Mayles. The character Banjo actually made his debut appearance in Diddy Kong Racing alongside Tip Top and Conker. Originally, this was supposed to be an adventure game named Dream, Land of Giants or Project Dream for the Super Nintendo. Yes, the development was that old. It was then moved on to the Nintendo 64. Project Dream was the code name for the RPG that served as the basis for Banjo-Kazooie. This is where the character Tip Top is from. The story revolved around Edson, who gets into trouble with some pirates. Edson carries a sword and is accompanied by a dog named Dinger or Dinger. Dinger has the ability to dig for items and assist Edson in many ways while also acting independently. The development team aimed to apply the pre-rendered graphics style used for Donkey Kong Country to a new game, but it was considered too large for the Super Nintendo's memory, so the project was then switched to the Nintendo 64. But due to performance issues, technical mishaps, and overall concern about the direction of the project, this eventually led the team to transform the game into Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie ends up being a huge success and had sold over 1 million copies in the US alone. It was compared to Super Mario 64 and received many praise for the graphics, exploration, soundtrack, length, gameplay, the list goes on. Banjo-Kazooie won the Outstanding Achievement in Art Graphics Console Action Game of the Year Award at the 1999 Interactive Achievement Awards. Banjo-Kazooie was re-released in 2008 for the Xbox 360 via Xbox Live Arcade and is also now available on the Nintendo Switch via Nintendo Switch Online.
I don't think you know what you're doing! You need a parachute! That's a backpack!
Oh, all right. Kazooie? Oh.
Banjo and Kazooie have disconnected, now working individually and as a team to tackle their biggest adventure yet, Banjo-Tooie. Rated E for everyone. Just remember, bears still need a bird to fly.
Next up, we have Banjo-Tooie, released in the year 2000 for the Nintendo 64 and developed again by Rare. Banjo-Tooie follows the adventures of Banjo and Kazooie, who again must stop Gruntilda, this time with her 2 sisters, who now want to vaporize the inhabitants of the island. Oh, and she's also a skeleton. This sequel had larger worlds and continued its formula of solving puzzles, jumping over obstacles, defeating enemies, and collecting items. This time, the game had 2 modes, with multiplayer now included for up to 4-player minigames repurposed for the main campaign. There's actually quite a list of changes that were made. It was revealed that Banjo-Tooie has about 150 characters that you meet, know, or took part of in the game. Rare had also planned to include an additional mode called Bottles Revenge, in which a second player could play as an undead version of Bottles and take control of your enemies. Just like the first game, Banjo-Tooie was very successful and received great reviews while also selling over 1 million copies. The game received praise for its graphics, gameplay, puzzles, humor, and music. GameSpot gave Banjo-Tooie the Best Platform Game Award of 2000. An Xbox Live Arcade version of Banjo-Tooie was developed by 4J Studios and was released for the Xbox 360 on April 2009. This version features a smoother frame rate and higher definition graphics and supports the stop and swap connectivity with the Xbox Live Arcade version of its predecessors, allowing players to unlock the bonuses included in the original Nintendo 64 version, as well as new content related to the Xbox 360. Next up, we have Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge, released in 2003 for the Game Boy Advance, again by Rare and published by THQ. The series takes place between the events of the first two games, with Gruntilda traveling back in time to prevent the events of Banjo-Kazooie. This is a single-player 2D game that also has mini-games like fishing and target shooting. There was also a port of mobile phones done in 2005 published by Infusio. This would also be the first Banjo-Kazooie game that was not released in Japan. Grunty's Revenge was actually the first Rare game released after being purchased by Microsoft from Nintendo, even though the game was released for a Nintendo game system. It is also the final Rare game with the original logo. This is the first game in the Banjo-Kazooie series where Kazooie can't fly. Next up, we have Banjo Pilot, also released for the Game Boy Advance in 2005, developed by Rare and published by THQ. Banjo Pilot is a kart racing game like Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing, but instead uses airplanes instead of go-karts. In fact, the game was created using the Diddy Kong Racing engine. This is because this was actually supposed to be Diddy Kong Racing Pilot as announced at E3 in 2001, meaning that this was supposed to have been the sequel to Diddy Kong Racing. At that time, the game featured characters like Diddy Kong, Donkey Kong, and Mario. Diddy Kong Pilot ended up being delayed past its release date, and at that time, Microsoft had acquired Rare in 2002. The game lost the rights to have Nintendo characters, so it was remade into Banjo-Kazooie Pilot. As mentioned before, the game plays similar to Mario Kart but with airplanes, so you can fly up and down or even do a barrel roll, and the planes are even equipped with bullets that can be used to shoot other players. All races are 3 laps and you get the power-up collectibles and even the golden music notes related to the Banjo-Kazooie games. Banjo-Kazooie Pilot was not well received and in fact was criticized heavily for being a Mario Kart clone and that the airplanes were not enough. And finally, we have Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Nuts and Bolts was the 5th and final installment in the Banjo-Kazooie series developed by Rare and published by Microsoft Game Studios, released for the Xbox 360. The game takes place 8 years after the events of Banjo-Tooie, and it wouldn't be a Banjo-Kazooie game without Gruntilda. This time around, you must defeat Gruntilda, who plans to take over Spiral Mountain by competing in a set of vehicle-based challenges. Yes, vehicle. The gameplay is highly focused around vehicle construction, in which the player must design custom vehicles including automobiles, motorbikes, boats, and airplanes from over 100 available components such as body panels, engines, wheels, wings, propellers, fuel, and weapons. Banjo and Kazooie use these vehicles to transport themselves around the levels and complete challenges for Jiggies. However, Banjo and Kazooie are limited to climbing, swimming, jumping, and attacking with a magic wrench, while having other abilities mapped to vehicle parts instead. The game does retain some platforming traits, as the player may disembark from a vehicle and explore the environment in a manner similar to that of the previous games. On foot, the duo can grab ledges, swim underwater, balance on tight ropes, and perform basic jumps. Originally, the game was to be a traditional platform game, However, the project was later changed into a construction-oriented game that was inspired by Legos. There is also a multiplayer mode purely vehicle-based where the player will be able to take their custom-built vehicles to Xbox Live and compete in online races and activities. A downloadable add-on for Nuts and Bolts titled LOG or Lost Challenges DLC was also released that included 6 new missions and access to 7 additional vehicle blueprints created by fans who won a blueprint design contest held by Rare. There's also bonus content unlocked through the use of stop and swap, as we mentioned before. Nuts and Bolts is filled with Easter eggs that reference other Rare games like Conker's Bad Fur Day, Diddy Kong Racing, and Killer Instinct, among others. The game received mixed reviews and has a love it or hate it feel to it, with its initial reception being negative and then later becoming successful. This would be the first and only console Banjo-Kazooie exclusive to the Xbox 360, and this is one of the major reasons for its downfall, as the game features next to no relation to the original 2 games. There was also a lot of other aspects that were criticized, like weak mission designs. Nuts and Bolts did sell over 400,000 copies and achieved platinum hit status, and was also included as one of the games in the 2010 book 1001 Video Games That You Must Play Before You Die. This game is said to be the one that laid the groundwork for future games that revolve around construction like Fallout 4. Sounds like a success story, right? So where is the series now? Gavin Price, multiplayer designer of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, expressed interest in developing a Banjo 4 game along with others who have a lot of ideas for the next game. Rare's senior animator Ellipse Miller said in an interview that Nuts and Bolts is like an introduction to what they could do. Most games are composed by Grant Kirkhope, who has worked on games like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, among others. He revealed in 2012 that some Rare employees had been attempting to work with the game engine Unity for PC titles, and that their first project happened to be a Banjo-Kazooie style minigame that was used for testing. Rare had no involvement in that project as stated by Kirkhope, but he did reveal that they kept working on attempts to bring the game to life independently. As it turns out, this team separated from Rare and formed Playtonic Games based on the freedom to create a sequel to Banjo-Kazooie for the fans, which led to a game called Yooka-Laylee, which Kirkhope also worked on. Yooka-Laylee is a spiritual successor to the Banjo-Kazooie series. It was published by Team 17 in 2017 for Windows, macOS, Linux, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. The game follows Chameleon Yooka and Bat Laylee on their quest to retrieve a magical book from an evil corporation, and the gameplay is of course similar to Banjo-Kazooie. The player controls 2 characters that work together to explore their environment, collect items, solve puzzles, and defeat enemies. This game was well received, and many praised the game as a successful follow-up to the Banjo-Kazooie games. It received even more favorable reviews for the Nintendo Switch. In fact, the game has sold over 1 million copies since its release. But as far as the original Banjo-Kazooie and an official sequel, no news has been released about any game that is being worked on. As Rare now lacks many former employees that worked on these games, it's possible that they just gave up on the project, given the fact that Microsoft already has other successful game series. That's it for Banjo-Kazooie, but if you enjoy content like this, check out our other Lost Games videos like Conker's Bad Fur Day or the most requested revival game yet, The Legend of Dragoon. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and comment what other series you wish to revive for more content like this at Game Circle TV.